Hello everybody, this is the Art McCoy University Radio Show. #1 all over the world. I thank all my millions of listeners and millions of callers. We love each and every one of you and every one of you. We have a very special show today. We're talking about suicide and suicide prevention. We got some tremendous guests in the studio. But as I think about that subject, I think about my lovely daughter, Denise. She was so beautiful, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. Oh, I loved her so much. I can see her little face in my eyes right now. Then as she got older, finished school, we kind of got farther apart. And then we got farther apart. And then at some point, we reached out to each other and we were beginning to get closer together again. It was my determination to get my little girl back in the relationship that we always had. I can remember very vividly. It was this time of year. It was about January. My daughter had moved back from California and she was here. And we was getting things together. I got her a new apartment and we were doing it. And all of a sudden my father died around Christmas time. And I remember that we had his funeral. And Denise, my beautiful daughter, wasn't expected to say anything, but my niece said, "Oh, come on up and say something, Denise." And she got up there and stood before my father's casket, and she spoke some beautiful words. I remember I reached out and hugged her then. I didn't realize that was going to be probably one of the last great hugs I got from her. Then we went down south to bury my father. He wanted to be buried in our hometown of North Carolina, and I left my daughter up to run the store, the grocery store that I had. And so we went on down to bury my father, and then there became a ruckus that I began to hear about some rumbling at the store. So I wanted to rush back to Cleveland and get back to Cleveland and find out what was going on. And when I got back to Cleveland, I couldn't find my daughter nowhere. Nowhere to be found. I looked everywhere. I got a sister. We went up to her apartment. No one was there. No one was nowhere to be found. All of a sudden, this serious mode came over me. I said, "Lord, all I want to do is hug my daughter one more time. Just let me hug her. I just want to hug her." We searched and searched. I had to get the Cleveland Heights police into the situation. They were very good, and they searched. We searched the grounds around the apartment. We did not find her. Before the police came out, me and some members of Black on Black went out, and we searched everywhere. We could not find her. And then she had this little poodle. She loved this little dog, so we knew something was wrong because she would never leave her dog behind. And she had left it behind. And then I went into the store and looked behind the counter, and the gun that I had left there was missing. I really began to panic then, but I could not find my daughter nowhere. Then the police came in one day and they said, "We found her car in Akron, but we haven't found her." I want to tell you, there's no worse feeling than looking for a child or looking for a loved one and not knowing where they are. And as you ride around the city and the streets and you see young ladies that look like your daughter. My daughter was 30 at the time. Looked like my daughter. I would be embarrassed because I'd stop the car and I'd go run out to reach out and hug her. And I would be so embarrassed because it wasn't her. Couldn't find my daughter nowhere. I never knew such anguish could come over a person. Couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. Phone rang at night. And I jump up automatically and say, oh my goodness, Denise is calling, but it wasn't her. Then one day we decided that we would go out, my members of the Black on Black Crime Committee, we decided that we would go out to the apartment building to have a vigil. Now I've had many vigils in the past, but this one was touching me deeply because we went out there to have a vigil to ask anyone. We went out there to have a search party to ask anyone if they had seen my daughter or knew where my daughter was. So we were out there praying and searching and having this time out in front of the building where my daughter came up missing, her new apartment. In the meantime, the Cleveland Heights police was upstairs looking around, searching for my daughter. So it's ironic, right when we begin to pray and close out the search and asking for help, all of a sudden the Cleveland Heights police came downstairs and said, Art, we found your daughter. I said, you found her? They said, yes, she's right upstairs. Right upstairs. She said, come on up. Some of the other guys wanted to come say, no, Mr. McCoy, you come up by yourself. And when I came up the steps, right in the big chair by the vestibule, looking out a stained glass window, was my daughter. She had been there for 2 or 3 days, and we walked past these stairways so many times, but we never saw her. And there she was. The police said, is that your daughter? I said, yes. I said, yes. And at that time, when I realized that I had found my daughter, even though it was not the condition that I wanted her in, God lifted a great burden off of me. A great burden. Even though she was gone, had taken her own life. The pistol was laying behind the chair. I realized one thing, that just finding her, God had lifted a great burden off of me. I just wished that I could have hugged my daughter one more time. Lord have mercy. If you haven't hugged your child, hug her now. If I could have hugged my child one more time, it would have been so great. But God lifted a great burden off my mind.